They expected you to crumble, to vanish into the shadows, to fade like a whisper lost in the wind. They thought you were too broken to rise, too wounded to fight back. They saw you standing at the edge, staring into the abyss, and they told themselves you wouldn't make it. They whispered behind your back, laughed in hushed voices, nodding to each other as if your fall had been inevitable. Everything fell apart. Betrayal cut you like a blade, pressed deep into your back, fist its edge cold, merciless and deliberate. Loss stripped you bare, leaving you standing in the ruins of what once was, shivering, desperate, trying to hold on to something, anything, but finding only emptiness. Failure clung to you like chain, wrapping around your wrists, your ankles, your throat, until you could barely breathe beneath the weight of it all. You felt like nothing, like a ghost of who you used to be, like a name written in the sand, waiting for the tide to come and wash it away forever. You stared at your reflection, but the eyes looking back at you were hollow, lost, unrecognizable. The fire that once burned inside you had been reduced to embers, flickering, fading, barely holding on. The world that once felt full of possibility had become a prison, every door locked, every road leading nowhere. You replayed the moments that led you here, over and over again, searching for the place where it all went wrong. Was it when you trusted them, when you let your guard down, when you dared to believe in something more? You cursed yourself for being naive, for thinking that loyalty meant something, that love was unbreakable, that hard work would guarantee success. The cruelest part? You didn't even see it coming. One moment, everything was in your hands. The next, it was slipping through your fingers like grains of sand, lost forever. And they saw it. They saw your fall, and they celebrated it. They didn't reach out a hand to help you. They didn't stop to check if you were still breathing. They simply stepped over you, as if you were just another casualty in a world that doesn't stop moving for the broken. Some of them pitied you, shaking their heads, whispering, "What a shame." Others enjoyed it, feeding on the spectacle of your downfall, fueling their own egos with your pain. And the worst ones? They pretended you never even existed. You became invisible, unseen, forgotten. You tried to scream, but your voice was swallowed by the silence. You wanted someone, anyone, to tell you that this wasn't the end, that you still had a chance. But no one came, no one spoke, no one fought for you. You lay in the wreckage, in the silence, listening to the echoes of a life that once felt full, now reduced to nothing more than shattered pieces. At first, you waited for someone to reach for you, to help you stand, to tell you that you were still worth something. But no one came. The world moved on, and you were left behind. And the realization hit you like a hammer to the chest. No one was coming. No one was going to save you. And that's when the real pain started. Not the pain of betrayal, not the sting of failure, not even the ache of loneliness. No, this pain was different. It was the slow, suffocating weight of hopelessness pressing down on your chest, making every breath feel like a battle. It was the voice in your head that whispered, maybe they were right. Maybe you're not strong enough. Maybe this is the end. And for a while, you believed it. You let the darkness in, let it wrap around you like a blanket, let it convince you that there was no way out. You stopped fighting, stopped hoping, stopped believing. Because what was the point? Every effort you had made had been crushed. Every ounce of trust you had given had been thrown back in your face. Every step you had taken forward had only led you deeper into the fire. So you let go. You let yourself fall into the numbness, into the silence, into the empty space where nothing hurt and nothing mattered. You told yourself it was easier this way, that if you stopped caring, stopped trying, stopped feeling, then maybe, just maybe, the pain would stop too. But it didn't, because deep down, something inside you refused to die. It was small at first, barely noticeable, buried beneath the rubble of everything you had lost. Just a flicker, just a whisper, just a single thought pressing against the darkness. This is not where my story ends. At first, you ignored it, tried to push it away, bury it, drown it in the silence, but it wouldn't leave. It grew louder, stronger, until it was impossible to ignore. It was the fire that refused to go out, the heartbeat that kept pounding, even when everything else had stopped. It was the undeniable truth that no matter how much they wanted you to stay down, no matter how much they expected you to disappear, you were still here. And if you were still here, then maybe, just maybe, you weren't finished yet. They thought you were done. They thought you would never rise again. But they forgot something. They forgot who you are. They forgot what you're made of. And that was their biggest mistake. Their words became chain, wrapping around your soul, tightening with every whisper, every glance, every smirk they threw your way. You could still hear them, even in the silence, even in the darkness where no one else was around. Their voices lived in your mind, echoing like a curse that refused to fade. You're too weak. You're not enough. You won't survive. At first, you tried to shake them off. You told yourself that words were just words, that they couldn't touch you, that they couldn't break you. But they did. They seeped into your skin, into your bloodstream, into the cracks they had already made in you. And before you even realized it, their voices weren't just whispers in the air anymore. They had become your own. You started believing them. Every time you tried to stand, you heard them laughing. Every time you tried to fight, you felt their hands pulling you back down. Every time you looked in the mirror, you didn't see someone capable of rising. You saw someone already defeated. You told yourself they were right, that maybe you really weren't strong enough, that maybe this was just how your story ended. And so, you stopped trying. You let yourself shrink. You let yourself fade. You let the weight of their words crush you until there was almost nothing left. Almost. Because something inside you refused to disappear. At first it was small, a quiet flicker, barely noticeable beneath the crushing weight of your doubts. A whisper in a hurricane. A single ember buried beneath the ashes. It wasn't strong. It wasn't loud. But it was there. And it was angry. Not the kind of anger that burns out quickly, leaving behind only exhaustion and regret. No, this was something deeper, something older, something that had been waiting, watching, biding its time beneath all the pain, beneath all the doubt. It was the part of you that remembered. It remembered the fire you used to have, the strength you used to carry, the dreams that once lived in your chest before they were buried beneath the weight of betrayal and failure. It remembered the fight in you, the one they tried so hard to break. And for the first time in a long time, it spoke. Get up. You ignored it. Get up. You shook your head, curled in tighter, wrapping yourself in the comfort of numbness. Get up. It wasn't a request anymore. It was a command, a roar from the depths of your soul, and it shook something loose inside you. Because deep down, beneath all the scars and the bruises and the doubts they had planted in you, you knew the truth. You were weak once, you were lost once, you did fall apart. But weakness is not permanent. Pain is not eternal. And even the most shattered things can be put back together. The doubts they planted in you were meant to take root, to grow inside you like vines, to strangle the last remnants of your strength. But they made a mistake. They forgot that seeds don't just create chain, they create forests. And the storm they sent to break you, it was watering the ground for something even stronger to grow. Something inside you was waking up, something relentless, something unstoppable. And this time, when their voices whispered in your mind, "You're too weak, you're not enough, you won't survive," you laughed, because they had no idea what they had just awakened. The nights were the worst, when the world was quiet, when there were no distractions, no noise to drown out the voices in your head. That's when the darkness felt the heaviest, when you were left alone with the weight of everything you had lost. You laid there, staring at the ceiling, your body motionless but your mind unraveling. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was deafening. It pressed against your chest like an unseen force, suffocating, relentless. You tried to push it away, but it wrapped around you like chain, dragging you deeper into a place where hope felt like a distant memory. You questioned everything, every choice, every mistake, every moment that led you here. Was I always this weak? Did I ever have a chance? Did they know something I didn't? The weight of failure sat on your shoulders, heavy, unshakable. It whispered to you in the voice of every person who ever doubted you, every person who walked away. It told you that this was it. This was where you stayed. That there was no coming back from this. That the world had moved on without you, and you were nothing more than a forgotten ghost, lost in the ruins of your own mistakes. And the worst part, for a moment, you believed it. Because this wasn't just falling, this was rock bottom, no safety net, no one to catch you, no one reaching out their hand to pull you back up. They had left you here. They had watched you struggle, watched you fight, watched you gasp for air, then turned their backs and walked away. Not a second thought, not an ounce of regret, because they expected you to stay down. They were convinced you'd never rise again, and a part of you wanted to prove them right. A part of you was tired of the fight, tired of the pain, tired of clawing your way up, only to be knocked back down. You thought about giving up, letting the darkness take you, just surrendering to it. But somewhere, in the quiet of that empty night, something stirred. It wasn't loud, it wasn't a roar, it was a whisper, a breath of something ancient, something powerful, something that had been inside you all along. No, one word, small, barely audible, but it rippled through you like a shock wave. No, because this wasn't how your story was going to end. Because rock bottom wasn't a grave, it was a foundation. Because they had left you here, thinking it was the last chapter, thinking it was the closing act. They didn't realize you were just getting started. The weight on your chest was still there. The silence still stretched out before you. But something inside you was different now. The darkness, it wasn't drowning you anymore. It was fueling you. Because when you have nothing left to lose, you have everything to fight for. And when they left you for dead, they made the biggest mistake of their lives. They gave you a reason to rise. They thought they had buried you. They thought the weight of your failures, the wreckage of your past, and the echoes of their doubt would be enough to keep you down forever. They underestimated one thing. Your spirit wasn't dead. Yes, you were broken. Yes, you had fallen further than you ever thought possible. Yes, you had questioned everything, even yourself. But something inside you refused to die. In the silence of that endless night, when the world had forgotten you, when no one was watching, when no one believed, something still burned. It wasn't a raging inferno, not yet. It was just an ember, small, barely visible, but it was there, and they never saw it. They mistook your stillness for surrender. They thought your silence meant defeat. They assumed that because you weren't fighting, you had given up. But the truth, you weren't giving up. You were gathering strength, because fire doesn't start as an explosion. It begins as a spark, a flicker in the darkness, a single breath of heat against the cold. And that's what you were now, a flicker. They didn't realize it, but the first cracks of your rebirth had already begun. The pain, it wasn't breaking you anymore. It was forging you, every tear, every scar, every moment of loneliness. It was turning you into something stronger, sharper, more dangerous. And soon, that ember would catch flame. And when it did, the ones who doubted you, the ones who left you for dead, the ones who thought they had won, they would have no choice but to watch in disbelief. Because you were about to do what they thought was impossible. You were about to rise. You stood in the wreckage, not as a victim, not as a ghost of who you used to be, but as something new. The dust had settled. The ruins of your past lay scattered around you, the echoes of everything you had lost still whispering in the wind. But this time, they didn't shake you. They didn't hold you captive, because this time, you made a choice. No more waiting, no more wishing, no more hoping that someone else would come and save you. It was just you now, and that was enough. For the first time in a long time, you felt it, the shift. It wasn't grand, it wasn't dramatic. It was simple, almost quiet, but it was real. Your body ached from everything you had endured. Your mind was heavy with the weight of what you had been through. But still, you moved, not because you weren't afraid, not because the pain had vanished, but because you refused to stay down any longer. You planted your hands against the cold, hard ground, fingers pressing into the dirt. It was solid beneath you, real, unforgiving. But instead of pushing you further down, it gave you something to push against. Your legs trembled, your arms shook, but you pressed up anyway. The first step was always the hardest, because it meant leaving behind the comfort of rock bottom. It meant stepping into the unknown. It meant facing the world again, and the world, it still carried the weight of their doubt. The ones who walked away, the ones who told you that you'd never make it, the ones who laughed when you fell. They were still out there, living their lives as if you never mattered, as if your struggle was just another story they had long forgotten. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that you were rising. You took a breath, deep, steady. The air felt different now, cleaner, sharper, like something had shifted inside you. It wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about you, about what you were capable of, about the strength they tried to convince you didn't exist. And now, you were ready to show them, not with words, not with promises, with action. Because this wasn't the end of your story. This was the moment you took your first step back up, and nothing was going to stop you. Fear tried to drag you back. It came in whispers, in shadows, in the voice that had lived inside you for so long, the one that had always kept you small, kept you doubting, kept you believing that maybe, just maybe, they were right about you. It told you to stop, to turn around, to let go of this foolish idea that you could be more than what you had become. It told you that rising was dangerous, that climbing back up meant opening yourself up to failure, to pain, to disappointment all over again. And for a moment, you hesitated, because fear had been with you for so long. It almost felt like home. That old version of you, the one who hesitated, the one who second-guessed every decision, the one who let the weight of the world push them down. It wasn't gone yet. It was still inside you, waiting for its moment to pull you back into the darkness. And it fought hard. Every step forward felt like a war, a battle against the part of you that wanted to quit. Because quitting was easy. Surrendering meant no more struggle, no more risk, no more painful reminders of what had happened before. But something was different this time. This time, you weren't listening. This time, you weren't letting fear sit in the driver's seat. Because you had seen what happened when you let it win. You had lived in that prison, locked in by your own doubts, suffocating under the weight of what if and I can, and you weren't going back. Not now, not ever. So you stood there, facing the voice in your mind, the one that had always told you that you weren't enough, and you told it the truth. I hear you, but I don't believe you anymore. Because fear doesn't disappear overnight. But you had changed. You had decided. You had chosen war. And for the first time in your life, you were fighting back. You were no longer the person who let fear control them. You weren't the one who backed down, who gave up, who let the weight of the past decide the future. You were something else now, something stronger, something dangerous. And fear, it no longer had power over you. Because you weren't going back. Not this time, not ever again. They still mock you, still laugh, still whisper behind your back, convinced that this is just another phase. They don't believe in your rise, not yet. They watch you from a distance, waiting for you to slip, waiting for the weight of your past to drag you down again. Because to them, you are still the person you used to be, the one who fell, the one who lost, the one who broke under the pressure. They speak of you in past tense as if you are nothing more than a ghost of a failed story, a waste of potential, a fool for even trying. They'll never make it. Their voices used to be loud, so loud that they drowned out your own, so loud that you started believing them. But something has changed. Their words don't cut as deep anymore. They don't shake you the way they once did. Because while they are still talking, still doubting, still waiting for your downfall. Something else is happening. Your own voice is getting louder. For so long, their opinions were the chains around your ankles, keeping you bound to the version of yourself they wanted you to be. Weak, helpless, broken. But they made a mistake. They thought their words were the final judgment, the undeniable truth. They thought their laughter would keep you small, but instead it became fuel. It became the fire that pushed you further. Every insult, every mockery, every time they turned their backs on you, it all became part of the reason why you refused to stop. You started realizing that the only reason their voices had power over you was because you had given it to them, but not anymore. Now you decide what's true. Now you decide what's possible. And as you take each step forward, as you become stronger, sharper, more relentless, something else happens. Their voices begin to fade. Because you're not listening anymore. Because your own voice, the one they tried to silence, has risen above theirs, louder, stronger, unshakable. And now, for the first time, they're the ones who are afraid. Because they are starting to realize the truth. You are not who you were before. You are not weak. You are not broken. And you are not stopping. Not now. Not ever. They can doubt you all they want. They can mock you, laugh at you, expect you to fall. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because this time, you're the one writing the story. And when they look back, when they see what you've become, they won't be laughing anymore. They will be watching in silence, because the sound of your victory will be louder than anything they ever said. Step by step, brick by brick, you start forging yourself anew. No shortcuts, no easy way out. Just you, your will, your pain, your fire. This is not about proving them wrong anymore. This is about proving yourself right. You wake up, and the weight is still there. The echoes of doubt still linger. The scars of the past still burn, but you don't turn away from them. You don't hide from the pain. Instead, you embrace it, because now you understand. Pain is not the enemy. It's the hammer that will forge you, the fire that will shape you. Every wound, every heartbreak, every moment of despair, it's all fuel now. You've learned that nothing comes without a cost. Nothing great is built without struggle, and so you pay the price. In blood, sweat, and fire. Every morning you rise before the sun, pushing past exhaustion. Every night you fall asleep with sore muscles and a mind racing with purpose. The grind is relentless. The road is brutal. But you don't care, because now you understand this is what it takes. There's no more waiting for the perfect moment. No more hoping for an easier path. You've let go of the illusion that things should be fair, that life should hand you a break. You no longer expect things to be easy. You expect yourself to be stronger. And that's why you keep moving. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every scar becomes proof of survival. Every drop of sweat, every tear, every sacrifice. It's all building something unstoppable, something undeniable, something unbreakable. You don't need to be saved anymore. You are saving yourself. And as the days turn into weeks, the weeks into months, something changes. You look in the mirror and realize you are no longer who you used to be. The weakness is gone. The hesitation has burned away. The past doesn't define you anymore. You define you. And when the world looks at you now, they don't see the same person they once doubted. They see the fire in your eyes. They see the weight you've carried, the mountains you've climbed, the battles you've fought. And for the first time, they are silent because they know now. They were wrong about you. They thought you'd fall apart, but instead you rebuilt yourself into something stronger than they ever imagined. And this is only the beginning. At first, they didn't believe it. They refused to. You were supposed to be finished, lost in the ruins of your past. They had walked away without looking back, convinced you would never rise again. But then, one by one, they turned their heads, and they saw something they never expected. You, standing, not just standing, rising. The weight that once crushed you, you carry it now like armor. The wounds that once bled, they have healed into battle scars, proof that you endured, proof that you survived. The same people who whispered about your failure, who mocked your downfall, now watch in stunned silence. Because somehow, some way, you refused to stay buried. You refused to be their cautionary tale. You refused to be forgotten. And now, they are the ones who don't know what to say. They don't understand how someone so broken could rebuild, how someone who lost everything could find a way to keep going. They don't know what it's like to fight battles in the dark, alone. They don't know what it's like to wake up every day, carrying the weight of every failure, every doubt, and still move forward. But you do, because you lived it, because you survived it. And now, you are rising. They try to explain it away. Oh, it's just luck. Oh, they must have had help. Oh, they'll fall again. But deep down, they know the truth. They know it's not luck. They know no one saved you. And they know, this time, you won't be falling back. Because this is different. This is not some temporary spark of hope. This is a rebirth. They see it in your eyes. The fire, the hunger, the unshakable will that refuses to break. And for the first time, they feel something they never expected to feel about you. Fear. Because now, you're becoming something they can't ignore. They don't laugh anymore. They don't whisper behind your back. Instead, they watch and they wait. Not for you to fail, but to see how high you'll go. Because now they know you are not the same person they left behind. You are something stronger, something greater, something they never saw coming. And the most terrifying part? You're just getting started. Pain. It was once your prison. Now it is your weapon. They thought pain would destroy you, that it would crush your spirit and leave you begging for mercy. But they never understood what true warriors are made of. They never understood that pain is the fire where the strongest steel is forged. You have been burned. You have been beaten. You have walked through the kind of suffering that turns weak souls into dust. But you didn't break. You learned. You grew. You adapted. Every betrayal, every loss, every scar carved into your soul, it all became fuel for something greater. They expected pain to weaken you, but instead it sharpened you. Like a blade tempered in fire, you became something harder, something deadlier. You stopped running from pain. You stopped fearing it, because you realized the truth, the secret they don't want you to know. Pain is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. It showed you who was real and who was fake. It revealed the lies you once believed about yourself and forced you to face the raw, unfiltered truth. And most importantly, pain taught you that you could survive more than you ever thought possible. Because after everything, after all the nights you thought would break you, you're still here, still standing. And now, pain no longer controls you. It no longer owns you. You own it. You take every ounce of it and channel it into something stronger, something relentless. They don't understand how you keep going. They don't understand why you refuse to stop. But that's because they've never felt what you've felt. They've never lived at rock bottom with no one to save them. They've never had to claw their way out of the darkness with nothing but their own will to survive. They think strength is something you're born with. They don't know the truth. True strength is built in suffering. It is earned through every drop of blood, every silent tear, every battle fought in solitude. And now, that strength is yours, that fire inside you. It is no longer a flickering ember. It is an inferno, an unstoppable blaze that refuses to be put out. You are not the same person you once were, and you never will be again. Because now, pain is not something you fear. It is something you welcome. It is proof that you are alive, proof that you are becoming unstoppable. And as long as you are breathing, nothing will break you again. Once their opinions ruled your world. You lived for their approval, for their validation. You bent over backward, trying to prove yourself to people who never truly saw you. You chased after their acceptance like it was the key to your worth. But no matter how much you gave, No matter how hard you tried, it was never enough. They always had something to say. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You'll never make it. And you believed them for too long. Their voices became your reality. But now their opinions mean nothing to you, because you finally understand something they never will. Your worth was never theirs to decide. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. You have outgrown their approval. You have outgrown the need to be liked, to be accepted, to fit into the mold they tried to force you into. Because you have built yourself from the ashes they left you in. And the truth is, they are afraid. Afraid of the power you have now. Afraid of the fact that they can no longer control you with their words, with their opinion, with their doubts. Because you see through them now. You see that their approval was a lie, a trap to keep you small, to keep you dependent on their acceptance. But you don't seek approval anymore. You don't ask for permission anymore. You walk your own path, unapologetically. They can whisper, they can judge, they can doubt. Let them, because their words hold no weight. You've learned that the only validation that matters is your own. And when you look in the mirror, you no longer see someone desperate for acceptance. You see someone who knows who they are, someone who doesn't need their approval to be powerful. And that is what terrifies them the most. Because they can no longer break you. They can no longer hold you back. And no matter what they say now, it doesn't matter. You are free. There was a time when you hesitated, when every step forward felt like walking through fire, when their words pierced your skin like daggers, making you question everything, when fear gripped your throat, whispering lies, telling you to turn back. But that version of you is gone, buried in the ashes of the battles you have fought, because now you are the storm. You don't flinch when the world throws its worst at you. You don't shrink when doubt tries to creep in. You don't falter when obstacles rise in your path, because you have been through the fire, and it did not consume you. It forged you. It turned your pain into power, your struggle into strength, and now the world sees it. They look at you and wonder, how did you survive? How did you rise when you were supposed to stay down? How did you become this force, this unshakable, unbreakable being? They don't understand